Hello, everybody. I'm Ty,
I'm Marcy.
and this is Spoiler Warning. This is our second episode. We're going to be tackling the ever popular Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan. And we're going to preface this by saying right off the bat that any experience that I have regarding the Avatar series is from marathoning the first episode, maybe, or the first season, maybe 5 years ago. And
Well, I've only managed to catch snippets and bits, and most of what I know is from Tumblr. So, needless to say, neither of us have a very good idea of what Avatar is really about. We know just enough to be infuriated with the movie, but not enough to know exactly everything that we should be mad about.
yeah, so on top of the things that we should meddle, let's start from the beginning. Things a lot less subjective, things that aren't quite as tied into the lore of the Avatar series. This goes straight down to the movie making.
It's awful. It's a bleeding pile of shit. I first off, the the visual effects that they were so happy to parade around, it looks so dramatic that it's fake. You could look at the set pieces and see that was paper mache. That sure looks like it's sprayed on. Boy, I'm not sure if that's actually ice. Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Yeah, and then even beyond that, lots of the moments with the bending, like arguably the most impressive moments of the movie, but also at the same time so focused on that it's just like, okay, we get it. This is
I
like we see
didn't.
how you CG'd this.
Yeah, I don't. I did not think that the bending was very impressive at all. It looked very, how do I say it, janky, untrained, sloppy. As far as I've been able to see throughout the gifs and snippets that I mentioned, it's supposed to look graceful. It's supposed to look strong. It's centered and like it's a practiced martial art that is sort of an innate body movement. And here you have people jerking around like they're being stunned with tasers. I mean, the most graceful it actually ever gets is when Aang, oh no, Ong,
As the movie would have you believe, yes.
is when his hands are tied behind his back and he does not have the opportunity to flail his arms around like wet noodles.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna go right with you there. It was probably on top of everything else, my biggest disappointment was the way that the actors themselves carried the bending. As you said, like well, the whole point in it, and right from the introduction, is that it's a martial art. They all take forms after martial arts that currently exist in our world.
Yeah, and while we're supposed to be, enthused with this whole bending thing, like it looks like the actors just don't have enough practice with it. Some of them are better than others, sure, but not the forefront in any way. It's sloppy. It's awkward. I wouldn't say it's the actor's fault because, well, they seem very new.
Yeah, and it kind of lends itself to, I guess, the rush feel that comes to the entire movie. Not the rushing of the pacing of the story itself, but also just almost as if the whole production was rushed through.
Well, yeah, they wanted to rush through until the very end, but we will cover that in a minute. I still want to talk about the casting.
Okay.
Like, I remember when The Airbender was first supposed to be coming out, and there was this big interview on TV how they were like trying to cast the character of Aang, and they had people send in videos. And they picked this one kid who they thought was really impressive, had no acting experience whatsoever. I thought that was really decent of them. I thought that they would, help walk him through it, but it's so unfortunate that you could tell how new he is at it. There's no real feeling behind it. He puts forth the effort, but his effort just doesn't shine through.
And it's not just the character of Aang either. Like it seems like pretty well any character that has any written lines of dialogue, they conversations between them don't sound natural. Emotional reactions either sound like they're forced or understated. This the acting all throughout is
It's new. Like
new and unfortunate. Yeah.
yes, like it would be forgivable if it was a fan film, which this could easily be interpreted as if you just scrubbed off M. Night Shyamalan's name on it and then like pushed it out as a fan film, I would have been really impressed. Wow, look at all these people, these big fans coming out to celebrate, what they love so much, But again, though, a fan wouldn't have done the things to the film that they did. So, again, casting decisions not so great. Chose a lot of people who are inexperienced or wanted to jump out there but couldn't pull it through.
Yeah, and following up with the casting decisions too. Short of the acting, even if the acting had been better, something that's just going to kind of constantly be a sticking point with some fans throughout. Maybe not necessarily for all, but for us, it's definitely was the inconsistency with which they casted the ethnicities of the various tribes.
Oh dear.
Like pretty early on, if anybody's seen any of the Legend of Korra stuff that's been jogging around the internet, or if anybody's seen any snippets of the original run of Avatar: The Last Airbender, water tribe very much
is modeled after the Inuits.
Yeah, very very tan of skin, though.
The entire culture.
Yeah, and then the Fire Nation had almost more of like an imperial China or imperial Japan feel to it. Although with the big iron war machines that the Fire Nation sort of becomes known for. And I think really the only one, looking back on it now, that they got any kind of accurate was the Earth Nation, which was more off of like Chinese Japanese peasantry,
I would
more
say
simple.
It's more Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've always been under the impression that it was taking more from the Asian sort of cultures, as well as the Inuit mixed in there. But it was troubling to us because the Water Nation tribes were white and
almost entirely white people.
Yeah, and yet they're doing these ethnic practices and stuff, and it's white people. And then you have the Fire Nation is entirely Indian.
Yeah, which I will give them credit for not whitewashing the entirety of the tribes, but at the same time, like I almost feel like if they were going to go for that, if they're going to go for giving tribes that distinctive, this is what the fire tribe looks like, what the water tribe looks like, why not just go with what was already established?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge complaint, but it's also we've had established races for each of the tribes, and it's troubling deep inside.
It is.
We need that.
So
it's okay.
Okay, you're just gonna be able to edit this out. Cool, because we're rambling right now.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's one of the other issues that ended up coming up too is partially because of these casting decisions where I guess they grabbed actors because they liked them or because they knew them for something else. Maybe, I don't know. But with the ethnic incongruity, with just sorry, I'm gonna go back on this.
It's okay.
This goes back to one of the other major problems with the casting decisions and with the fact that they decided to cast all of the Water Nation as white folk and the Indian actors in the Fire Nation is it makes it that much more difficult to differentiate the well-known characters. Like for Zuko, who should be one of the most obviously noticeable characters, we didn't know it was him until his name was given. Even then, we had to search for the scar that's supposed to say, "Hey, this is Zuko."
Yeah, it was an almost invisible sort of scar until he turned just right, and you could see like maybe a few lines of hair missing. Like I was seeing his face on Tumblr. He's got this huge scar. He can't grow an eyebrow there anymore. Like it runs right up into his hairline. It's a scar that's immediately recognizable, and it screams his entire past. And then what we have here is it's not really a scar. It's well, I guess it is a scar, but not quite.
But it's not a brand. It's not a mark. you just kind of forget it's there until it's pointed out.
Yeah, for the most part, I completely forgot about it. And then you have his uncle, was a white guy.
Yeah, the
one white guy in the Fire Nation, which was strange. He wasn't nearly characterized as. Oh, speaking of characterization,
Oh.
The movie was incredibly shallow.
Oh yes.
In addition to the rush we said earlier, they didn't allow any character development. There was no depth to anybody. This is writing wise. You couldn't get attached to these characters, even if these actors were the most spectacular actors in the entire world. The writing it just fell short. It couldn't hold up the entire series, especially since they stuffed the first part of the series into the first 40 minutes.
Yeah. It's like this is all a problem that could have been solved maybe if Shyamalan had tried to be a little less ambitious with it. Maybe I tried to stretch out the first book, the Book of Water, into maybe 2 movies. You would have given more time to establish characters, to establish events, to let us know a little bit more of what makes these people tick. Instead, what we get is, what's supposed to be the majority of the season, at least to my recollection, with the journey of keeping Aang out of the Fire Nation's clutches, of trying to get him training with water bending, of finding out why he's having issues with it, of finding out why the Fire Nation is doing what it does. Of all of this gets condensed down into about 20 to 30 minutes. And then from there on, they decide to latch onto the last maybe 5 episodes of the season.
Yeah, you could tell that is the one part that they truly, truly actually wanted to do. And they didn't want to do that first bit, but they knew they would have to in order to get through the rest. So we montaged through the beginning.
Yes.
It ended up with me going and turning to Ty saying, "What the hell is going on? I don't understand it. What is this?" And it's frustrating to not understand what is going on the screen in front of me, especially since, again, going back to the objective quality of the movie, the cuts do not relay the information that they should. They for the most part, they jump from one conversation to the next conversation, and then it's a totally different scene. We don't even know what happened in between. There was no happening in between as far as we know. And then there was this whole thing in the end that they supposedly built up to. That, the whole, big ocean thing, where Aang takes control of the ocean and, throws back the Fire Nation. We don't even care. We didn't see him train up to this moment. We didn't see any hardship for this. In fact, there was barely any hardship in the movie for the main character.
Yeah.
This is what makes us care. He cried because his people were dead for 100 years. Yeah, I could understand that, but they didn't actually show any grief.
No.
They had flashbacks.
And they weren't even really all that much to show the grief of it. There's one brief moment of showing why he originally ran away. He didn't know that they had been wiped out.
When did they show that?
Oh, they show when it was a while after, and he's talking about the test that the air nomads gave him, and they found out that he was the Avatar.
That's when he was supposed to be holding his head, and then he did that at the end instead.
Yeah, when he was supposed to be bowing to them, and instead he ran away.
Well, he has to bow to them.
Yeah. We're gonna cut this part out, aren't we?
No.
Oh, okay, we're gonna cut that part out. Sorry.
Okay. But it's just, I guess that sort of illustrates exactly what I was just saying. I had no clue what was going on. I have not seen enough of the Avatar to know what was going on. And then, speaking of, I know we started talking about Zuko and Iroh. We didn't cover Katara. We didn't cover Sokka. Sokka.
Yeah, and actually, this is probably where you run into one of the biggest problems that I have with them focusing so much on the last chunk of the season. Or just if they had just done it in and of itself, just decided, hey, this is the grand moment of the season. This is what we want the movie to be about. This is the big conflict. This is where everything wraps up. If they had executed it well, fine, I could be okay with it. But
It
they
could have
missed
been
out.
done in 20 minutes.
It could have been done in 20 minutes. But they didn't make that decision. And making the decision to spend so much time in the Northern Water Nation, they missed out on what, at least my recollection, was one of probably the most important scenes, if not for Aang, then definitely for Katara. Where one of the things that ends up they make a pretty big point of is the waterbender training that they go through in the Northern Water Nation is difficult, and Aang actually ends up kind of excelling at it. Although Katara kind of. Oh, no, sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong way. Aang has a rough time of it because he has a rough time with all of the water bending all through the season. But Katara starts actually coming into her own through it. Right down to the point where in a sparring match with the instructor, with this guy who's been riding their asses the entire time they've been in there, she almost ends up killing him. She almost ends up impaling him on an icicle, if I remember correct.
Oh wow! As far as I know, I've seen how infuriated Ty has become over just the inaccuracies that he could remember, and I've seen enough of the fandom to know that their enragement is for really good reason, and it speaks volumes about what this could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, I want to see the show and compare it for myself to see exactly what went wrong. I don't understand why Shyamalan decided that taking such a big thing and then changing some fundamental aspects of it would make people like it.
No, and it's probably his biggest failing. Is, as you mentioned in the review for this, the job of a movie that ties into a television series is to give something that the fans that already love the television series will latch onto more, will hold up proudly as a banner of this is what we love, this is making it into the mainstream, but also something that'll draw new fans in. There are people who've never heard of the franchise and be like, this is what this is. This is the story. These are the people you should care about. These are the events you should care about. And by the way, if you like this, there's this whole other thing going on in the TV show that you can continue watching.
But instead, it's become a shame. It's as if I were a fan, I would never want anybody outside of the fan to ever see this. This is the kind of thing that you show to people and say, "This is what a bad fan does." Because you wouldn't do this to anything that you really actually love. Like I said earlier, I've seen the interviews before it came out. This was so long ago, I don't even remember how long ago. But it was Shyamalan going, "Oh, well, my kids watch it, and I thought it was pretty cool." And I bet running through the back of his head was, "I can make a lot of money off of this, or I could practice all my little visual effects with this." And it's not something that should have been taken in that way. This is something that could have been coddled with a lot of love and respect for the actual source material. It could have turned into something beautiful.
It could have. So on that note, I think it's getting about time to wrap it up. What I can promise you here is, at some point in the weeks or months to come, we will marathon again through the Book of Water. We'll give Marcy a proper introduction to the Avatar franchise, and I will make sure that she types up a review, probably drawing parallels to the movie, just to see what she thinks of what it could have been. But on that note, I hope that you've enjoyed our second episode of Spoiler Warning. I've been Ty.
And I'm Clorin, and I said I was Marcy, but I am Clorin. I'm both.
And thank you for watching. If we've made any mistakes either in more technical details, please be sure to let us know in our Ask box on the blog or in the comments below this video. And thank you for watching.
And as well, don't forget to subscribe for more and suggest what you would like to see or hear next. And hopefully we get a better microphone before we record next time. Unlikely, but we hope. Alright, have a good night.
Night.